AITA for refusing to go to my friend's boyfriend's party after she demanded to approve my outfit? My 29 female friend Kate, 28 female, has a boyfriend, Jamie, 29 male, whom she has been with for nearly 3 years. We met Jamie on a night out, and I would say that although he's Kate's boyfriend, I consider him a friend. We share an interest in a particular sport that we text about sometimes, and if I have a spare hospitality ticket to one of the sporting fixtures, I will sometimes invite Jamie to go. Jamie's 30th is coming up, and Jamie and Kate planned a big party, and I peripherally helped out with logistics when asked. A few days ago, Kate texted me. She asked if I wouldn't mind toning down my look for the party, and if I could send her a picture of what I was planning to wear. I asked her what this meant, and after asking several times if she really had to say it, she asked if I could dress verbatim. Basically what I would consider frumpy, because she really didn't want to be outshone at her own boyfriend's birthday party. When I didn't reply right away, she went on to say that she wanted Jamie's full attention that night, which she wouldn't get if I showed up dressed properly. I was a bit annoyed by what she was implying, so I said if I was going to be so much of a concern for her, I'd rather just politely decline the invitation. Kate freaked out, saying I was being immature by not coming just because I couldn't steal the spotlight. I said it wasn't about that. It was about her making me responsible for whether or not I draw her boyfriend's attention, which is something I've never tried to do nor done as far as I'm aware. She then said it was really important to Jamie that she stand out because his friends and colleagues would be there. I just told her that again, if she was so worried I was going to be distracting everyone, I'd rather not come than feel humiliated from now until the event. I said I would send her Jamie's gift and she could tell him why I wasn't coming. I guess she didn't tell him the reason because Jamie messaged me saying he knows I'm booked the night of the party, but he'd really like it if I could be there, and asked if I could reorganize so I could come. I hadn't replied, but I got a message from Kate saying she knows Jamie is trying to get me to come and please could I just put my pride aside and come to the party. I asked if she was going to ditch the outfit policing, but she said no, so I said I would not be coming. She didn't reply, but I've since received a couple of texts from mutual friends saying that while her request is ridiculous, Kate is aware of that. She's just desperate to be seen a certain way, and even if it's pathetic, I would probably feel the same way in her shoes. Other friends I've told who don't know Kate say I should not bow to the pressure and that she's nuts for even asking. I don't disagree, but also I feel bad skipping the party when it's Jamie's birthday and he specifically asked that I come. So should I be going? Update. First of all, thank you to everyone for the advice. Most responses were not what I was expecting and really gave me a lot to think about. As surprised as I was that so many people said to tell Jamie, I did realize it was the right thing to do. So, I texted him and told him that Kate was insisting I dressed a certain way. Jamie called and explained. A couple of months ago, Jamie and Kate were out with a few of his friends. These same friends that I mentioned in my comments are not fond of Kate, and everyone had a lot to drink. They were talking about how they met their significant others, and the story of Jamie and Kate meeting came up. Apparently, during the telling of the story, Kate asked Jamie why he had decided to hit on her rather than me, and one of his friends joked that it was because he knew he didn't have a shot with the hot one, aka me. Kate asked if this was true, and Jamie, having had way too much to drink, explained in a way that made it sound kind of true. He said he did notice me that night and thought I was attractive just seeing me. He said he would never have approached me because he knew he would never have a chance with someone like me. So in that way, his friend was right. He said that speaking to Kate was the absolute best outcome because he loves her and plans on spending the rest of his life with her. But even knowing this, Kate has taken this extremely hard. Even though she says she is over it, he's noticed changes in her behavior that seem to be related to that. He also admitted that he'd been planning to propose to Kate at the party, and that is why he'd wanted me to be there. But after hearing this on top of the way she has been handling the situation previously, he won't be doing that anymore. After speaking to Jamie, I called Kate. She admitted that she had tied a lot of her self-worth in the fact that she'd finally been picked over me and now it felt like that wasn't true. She apologized for trying to solve her insecurities through me, but also said she wasn't sure she would be able to have me in her life, as much as I had been with the way she's been feeling. As hurt as I was, I said I understood. She said she still wanted me to come to the party since I'd helped organize it, and she obviously dropped the absurd dress code, so I will be going to the party. I trust that Kate will communicate her boundaries. to Jamie, but I don't plan on inviting him to any more events for the foreseeable future. I'm really sad that I've probably lost a longtime friend over the drunken awkwardness of other people, but I also get that Kate can't help how she feels, and frankly, it's for the best not to be in a secret competition. So yeah, I'm hurt, but I'm going to the party. Not a satisfying update, but an honest one. Update 2. Going through these comments has actually brought up a couple of memories that have, in hindsight, made me a bit uncomfortable, and I actually don't think I will end up going to this party. As much as the mutual friends will have questions, and I don't know how much of the truth I will end up telling, I feel too weird right now to continue to be involved in this situation. AITA for purchasing my guy friend his dream birthday present and outshining his girlfriend in the process. My guy friend Tom has been one of my best friends since college. We're in our mid-20s now and are both currently in committed relationships with long-term partners. I have never had feelings for Tom, nor has he ever had feelings for me. Since college, Tom has been a huge watch fanatic. 2 months ago, he was showing me this stunning vintage watch and made an offhanded comment about how he would die of joy if he somehow got his hands on one. Very coincidentally, I was in New York City a few weeks ago and stumbled upon this watch store that just so happened to have the exact one Tom wanted. It was expensive, I won't lie, at about $2,500, but I decided to get it for his 25th birthday. To me, it was basically fate, lol. My boyfriend and I do very well financially, so this was something that I could personally afford and wanted to buy. For Tom, especially knowing how happy it'd make him. Tom has a tradition of hosting a dinner party at his place for his birthday, and then following that up with cake and gift opening. I told him before the dinner that my gift was a huge surprise, and asked if he could save it for last, and he agreed. His girlfriend ends up going first, and she gets him this gorgeous sweater that she crocheted for him and a book that he's been wanting, which I thought was super thoughtful and lovely. Last, it was my gift. When he opened it and saw what it was, he literally screamed, hopped over a bunch of people, and squeezed me in this huge bear hug. I was so happy to see him happy. It genuinely filled me with so much joy. He even got emotional and I saw him swipe a few tears. He also said that it was the best gift he'd ever received. The whole time, his girlfriend was only slightly smiling and stayed quiet. The next morning, I got a text from his girlfriend that essentially said that although she appreciated my thoughtful gift, she thought that it was a bit out of touch and lacking awareness. She admitted that Tom had also told her about the watch, and she wanted to get it for him, but it was way out of her budget. She accused me of knowing this. I had no idea, and still getting it to rub it in her face and to outshine her. She finished by saying how she felt like I had overstepped a boundary by getting the gift, and would appreciate me not doing anything similar to it again in the future. I responded and told her that while I could see her point of view, I was just trying to do a nice thing for a close friend of mine. I asked her, wouldn't you rather he got the gift and seen the happiness that it brought him than him not getting it at all? She responded that that happiness was only shared between Tom and I and no one else, and that she felt hurt by my actions. Only my boyfriend knows about this, and he's on my side. But thinking through it all again, I do see how I could have overstepped, but my boyfriend says that it's not my job to apologize for her insecurities. So AITA here? AITA for leaving my surprise wedding because I felt blindsided? Last week, I, 30 female, was invited to a supposedly fancy party by my longtime boyfriend, Mark, 32 male. We had been dating for 5 years, and while we had discussed marriage before, there were no immediate plans for a wedding. Excited about the event, I dressed up in my best attire and arrived at the designated venue. As I entered the grand hall, I was completely taken aback to see all of our family, friends, and acquaintances gathered, eagerly waiting. It turns out, Mark had orchestrated an elaborate surprise wedding for us without my knowledge. Everyone erupted into applause as I stood there, shocked and overwhelmed. I just felt a mix of emotions. While I love Mark and had dreamed of our future together, the idea of getting married without any prior discussion or consent felt like a breach of trust. So I pulled Mark aside and tried to express my concerns and reservations about the surprise wedding. I explained that I wanted a say in the planning process, to be part of the decision-making, and to have the chance to prepare mentally and emotionally for such a significant milestone in our lives. However, Mark dismissed my concerns, saying that he thought it would be a romantic gesture and that I would be thrilled. In that moment, I faced a difficult choice: go along with the surprise wedding, putting on a smile despite feeling unsettled, or stand up for my autonomy and voice my true feelings. I ultimately made the decision not to proceed with the surprise wedding, much to the disappointment and confusion of our guests. Now, I find myself at odds with Mark, our families, and even some of our friends who believe I overreacted and spoiled a beautiful moment. However, I firmly believe that a marriage should be a joint decision, with open communication and shared expectations. Everyone's excuse for this is, I have always talked about marrying Mark. And again, the problem isn't marrying him. The problem is not having any say in my wedding. Mark thought I'd appreciate it, because I always spoke about how stressful planning a wedding must be. Yes, I think it's stressful, but I'd still like planning one. After this whole ordeal, everyone asked if Mark and I were ending things, in which I replied, no. I emphasized to them and Mark that I still wanted to marry him, and most feel like this is making me more of an a-hole since I just wasted a perfectly fine wedding. So, AITA for refusing to attend my own surprise wedding, even though it was intended as a romantic gesture? Edit. I previously omitted this from my post because of the subreddit's word count guidelines. I love surprises. It's a thing everyone has known me to love. Mark, knowing that, the fact I wanted to marry him and said wedding planning was stressful, thought a surprise wedding would be perfect. A surprise engagement is bland, because it will always be a surprise but not a wedding lol. He threw this wedding for the surprise, but explained how in a couple days we could do a courthouse wedding to make it legal. This was his only way to surprise me. I love spontaneity, but legal marriage or not, I wanted a say in my wedding. To choose the perfect date, to choose my bridesmaids, to pick out my cake. Again, due to these thoughts, everyone thinks I'm the a-hole, because I could have gone along with the party and do a redo legal wedding. But again, I felt blindsided and confused, so I left. Update. I want to start off by thanking everyone for the responses I got and the advice. However, I would like to reiterate that Mark is a great person who did a stupid thing. If you knew me, though, a surprise wedding seems like something I would love. Unfortunately, I didn't. After talking to Mark, we both got to the conclusion that we didn't do anything wrong. Both of us are valid in our opinions, and the situation was an odd one. Unfortunately, Mark spent a lot of money on planning this wedding, as well as family members. He doesn't think that we have the funds to plan another wedding until a couple years. I will be honest, that choice is really messing with me. I'd like to be married sometime soon and start out life as a family. I know weddings don't have to be extravagant. We could always throw a small party and once we have enough money, do a second one, but I don't know if that's what I want. I honestly feel selfish and regret not using the surprise wedding. I feel like I wasted a bunch of money. I used to stand by my choice confidently, but now I'm not sure I made the right choice and all this stress is wearing me down. Anyway, I'm staying with Mark, probably will get married soon, and have my dream wedding in the near future, hopefully. Again, thanks to all the responses, and I hope people from AITA also see this post.
AITA for leaving itemized tips to compensate for my wife's behavior. My wife and I, both in our 30s, dine out every once in a while, but not too often because of my wife's annoying habit, inherited from her family. She always complains, sends food back if it's not absolutely perfect, and makes needless requests/substitutions. She doesn't have allergies or sensitivities. It can easily take 5 minutes for her just to order her own food, and sometimes I've already finished my meal by the time she gets her food because she sends it back, asks for modifications, etc. I know restaurant staff don't appreciate it. I've tried talking to her about this, but she doesn't see an issue with it. Anyway, we make decent money and we use our combined funds on dates, dinners. I recently started writing what my wife does on the receipt and then calculating a tip in addition to the normal gratuity to compensate. So, to a receipt I might add, complained about not having a specific beverage, add $5. Asked 5 questions about a single menu item, add $5. Asked for a new drink because there was too much ice, Add $5. Sent meal back, even though it was exactly what she ordered. Add $5. She didn't notice me doing it the first 2 or 3 times, but last night she noticed I was spending a lot of time on writing a tip amount and asked why. I showed her what I wrote. She's been mad at me since, saying I'm embarrassing her to the staff. I told her she's embarrassing us both. AITA? Petty, maybe. But an a-hole? Edit. My wife is otherwise a very nice, caring, and generous person. She does always say please and thank you even for her most absurd requests. Annoying each other like this is our love language, but this time she's pretty mad. Oops. Update. Alrighty, friends, we've had our laughs and shared our perspectives. Since my wife frequents this subreddit, I went ahead and showed her this post. With that said, I'd like to address a few things. First, she and I both know that any posts on this sub are peepholes into people's lives and characters, not display cases. Yes, my wife's behavior when dining out is bad, which is why I tried to think of a way to point it out and make up for it. That said, she's not a bad person. Learn to separate the two and you'll get far in life. Secondly, when I say she was, or is mad at me, I don't mean that she is deeply hurt and distraught. She's calling me an a-hole, yes, but that's normal for us. If this was something that was actually harmful to her, I wouldn't be sharing it online. Anyway, she would like for you all to know that she is taking your responses to heart and she is going to be more mindful of how she dines. She would like to add that she didn't think it was a big deal before because, as she puts it, she doesn't think twice about meeting expectations in her line of work, even if they are above and beyond the norm. She's just happy to meet demand, but she recognizes that not everyone feels that way. She's going to try to be a better customer. She said reading this was brutally eye-opening, but we both also found some laughter and had a good discussion. AITA for privately asking my friend about the paternity of her children. A few years ago, my close childhood friend gave birth to triplets. Her husband is a light black man. Of the 3, 2 were the same skin tone as her husband, and the third was much darker. The skin tones made me a little suspicious that her husband might not be the father. I pulled her aside privately and asked her seriously if her husband was the father. She didn't even listen or answer rationally. She just freaked out at me and acted super insulted and kicked me out. I reached out to her husband and told him about her reaction and told him he should get a paternity test, and he called me an a-hole and blocked me. Neither have spoken to me since. I've always thought that they dramatically overreacted and were probably hiding something because of their responses, but they're still married and sometimes I feel bad about what happened. I just felt a lot of empathy for her husband because I would be devastated if I wasn't confident that I was the father of my future children. Was I an a-hole for asking privately? Edit. Okay, I get it. I'm an a-hole. I want to make it clear that I didn't think the triplets had different fathers. I'm not an idiot. I thought it was possible, given the skin tone of the third triplet, that all 3 were fathered by a darker man and the first 2 were a bit lighter because my friend was very fair. AITA for changing the wedding venue my fiancé chose to something more flashy as a surprise. I, 25 male, am marrying, 24 female, this coming October. We both have very large families, but hers is really poor and kind of traditional. As a result, my fiancé has been taught to always go for the cheapest option throughout her life, whether we are going out to eat or buying clothes or going on holiday. Well, we've been planning the wedding, and the choice of venue was typical for her. A small local church where she was christened. Right off the bat, the place isn't suitable for the number of guests who will be invited, and I knew she only chose that location because of money, which is not an issue. I spoke to my father, and he agreed to fund a wedding abroad in Venice. I'm May. Their only child, so getting married is a big deal, and to arrange transportation for all the guests. He agreed to cover all expenses, so obviously I changed the venue and sent out invitations. I knew the money spent would make her anxious, and she has always dreamed of visiting Venice, so I waited to tell her until it was organized as a surprise. Well, She didn't take it well and said I was a massive a-hole, and that she had much preferred the church venue. She said it was too embarrassing to cancel it now that I've told people, but she seems really mad. I'm confused since that venue was never practical, and I am wondering if I'm the a-hole here or if she's overreacting. AITA.
AITA for not wanting to dye and cut my hair to keep up with the hateful and spiteful traditions of my older siblings. Hello, this is quite the story, so I'll start from the beginning. My mother has 6 kids. Annabelle, 22 female, Seth, 20 male, Lily, 19 female, Melanie and Stephanie, 17 female twins, and me, 16 female. My mother has never been a real parent to us. She popped out baby after baby, forcing my older siblings to take care of the next one. People even assumed that Annabelle was my mother for a time because she'd always be seen grocery shopping, buying our uniforms, and bringing us places. My mother was busy enjoying her life. Our mother has cared about one and only one thing about us: our hair. She loves our beautiful blonde hair. She'd always skimp out of grocery money, but always brought us to hair salons every time we'd go to any sort of event. She'd spend a pretty penny on our hair, and she'd take better care of our hair than our health. Annabelle started the tradition when she turned 16. To spite our mother, she dyed her hair pink and cut it all into a short bob. My mother was absolutely horrified. One after the other, each 16th birthday, my siblings died and cut their blonde, beautiful hair to spite our mother. I'm the only one left with my long blonde hair. It's down to my legs, and my mother adores it. She always favored my hair the most because it was the lightest blonde, and it's just like a doll's hair. She spent hours brushing it when I was a little girl. So I wasn't very surprised when all my siblings came to me a day after my birthday, eager to bring me to a salon and cut all my hair off and dye it. I told them I loved my long hair, and I loved the color. They all got mad and told me that I needed to cut and dye it, or at the very least, dye it. My mother loved it, and they wanted to see her cry. She always cried when they cut their hair. I told them that I hated Mom. She was horrible and toxic, but it's my hair, and I love it. None of them are speaking to me. I understand their hateful nature and why they want me to cut it. Maybe I just should, but I don't know. Reddit? AITA?
AITA for exposing my future sister-in-law for bullying me in high school at a family event. In high school, I used to be friends with this girl, Annika. We were close until junior year, when I discovered she had been spreading false rumors about me. However, even after I stopped being friends with her, she continued to make up lies about me and made my life horrible right up until we graduated. We went to different universities, and I'm in my mid-20s now. My older brother, Carter, went to the same university as Annika. Recently, he announced that he had gotten engaged to his girlfriend. Our family was happy for him, but we were surprised at the same time since we didn't know he was dating anyone. He said he'd introduce her at an upcoming family party. The party rolled around, and guess who walked in the door with Carter? Annika. I honestly thought I was hallucinating, and I felt sick seeing her again. Carter left Annika with some relatives, then came over to me and asked to talk. We went to another room, and Carter explained he'd met Annika at a party and didn't recognize her, but it was love at first sight. But after he found out her full name, he realized it was the same Annika who spread lies about me. He confronted her, and she claimed to not remember me or anything she did. He let it go because he really liked her. He then pleaded with me to be nice to her since she didn't remember what she had done and that she was a good person. I just told him I needed a moment to myself to process everything. When I eventually went back to the party, I decided I would ignore her. I didn't say anything rude, I just didn't talk to her or acknowledge her. She didn't talk to me or acknowledge me either. But when we sat down to eat, all heck broke loose. One of my aunts asked me how I felt about my brother getting married. I tried changing the subject, but she kept pressing. So I eventually snapped and said something like, I actually don't feel great about it considering his future wife bullied me and never apologized. Everyone turned to look at Annika. She just started crying and ran out of the room. Carter went after her, and they left early. The rest of the night was chaotic because everyone was asking me what happened. I told them. Later, Carter called me and said I was a horrible person for embarrassing Annika in front of the whole family, and I was being petty over high school drama. He demanded I apologize to her. I refused and said he was the awful one for blindsiding me with this, and that, if she never bothered to reach out and apologize for what she did while they were dating, I wasn't going to let it go now that they were engaged. He kept insisting that she didn't remember, and she can't apologize for something she doesn't remember, but I think that's BS. I ended up hanging up on him. The way I see it, I was asked a direct question, and I provided a direct answer. Also, I don't think I have any obligation to cover for her when she made my life horrible, especially when she's obviously lying about not remembering. AITA, edit. I can't believe I have to add this, but random people are messaging me about privacy, so I just want to say that the names in this story are fake. I named Annika after a character in a movie and Carter after a character in a book. Please calm down.
AITA for leaving my girlfriend's birthday party after an hour. My 22 male, girlfriend 23 female, and I have been dating officially for 4 months, but we had been non-exclusively dating for about a year prior to us making our relationship exclusive. She had a birthday party last weekend, and it was disco-themed. I'm not a fan of disco, but because I love my girlfriend, I went. I showed up with a couple of my friends, and after about an hour, we were all getting tired of the music and decided we were gonna go out to the bars, and I told my girlfriend I would come back to help her clean up. She asked me if I could stay, and that it meant a lot to her, but I just wasn't feeling the music and wanted to go. I told her I wasn't having a lot of fun, but that I would be back to help clean up and take her home. I left with my friends, and after 20 minutes, she ended up texting me and said don't bother coming back, and that she has help from her friends, and her mother would take her home. Things have been really weird since then, and she told me what I did was rude and inconsiderate of her feelings, and that she wanted me there. I told her at least I showed up, even though that was not my type of setting, and she should be grateful that I came, and I didn't need to be there the whole party. She started saying how she always does things that only spark my interest, which is true, but I reminded her that she isn't required to do that, and the conversation started to feel manipulative. I just feel like she should be more grateful for the things I do, and not be stuck on the few things I don't. I feel like me at least showing up was really nice, and I even offered to come back and clean up, but she said no. She started backtracking, and said that she would understand if I went home, but is upset that I left to go do stuff with my friends, and not that I just left, but why should I have to stay home while she is out having fun? AITA, update. Thank you for all of your input. This is the first relationship both of us have been in, where we openly said and acted on having a healthy relationship, as we both have only had toxic ones prior to this, which both included us having a child from one of our previous relationships. It's becoming apparent that she did a lot more maturing from those experiences than I have. I am used to my friends and peers feeding the same mindset I have shown in this post. I really do love my girlfriend, and I can see how I'm being stubborn and selfish in this situation. I owe her a big apology, and hopefully I can figure something out to make this up to her if she will let me.
AITA for telling my sister not to eat in her car because it grosses me out. I, 15 female, am learning how to drive in my sister's 19 female car. My sister and I have very different standards of cleanliness. Her room is always messy. She has no problem re-wearing clothes. She sleeps with our dog. She doesn't wash her face, and she only washes her hair like once or twice a week. I knew she eats in her car because her booster seat thing had sesame seeds in the holes, and I sometimes see fast food wrappers in the car, but I can just take off the booster thing and ignore it. I got home the other day, and she was eating in her car, and there was food everywhere. It was disgusting. When she came inside, I told her to stop eating in her car because it grosses me out. She said it's not my car, so not my choice, but I told her I drive it almost every day. She told me she has 25 minutes to eat and get to work after class, and her work is 15 minutes away from her school, so she's going to eat wherever she wants. And if I have a problem with that, I can buy my own car. I told her I can't work if I can't drive, and she said that's not her problem. She hasn't been letting me drive her car because apparently it's disgusting. and she's been kinda rude to me, so I wanted to know if I was the a-hole for telling her not to eat in her car.
AITA for taking my daughter to Disneyland? I kinda already think I'm not, but my family is convincing me I am. I, 28 female, went on a vacation with my daughter, 5 female, and my husband, 29 male, as a last vacation before we're a family of 4. I'm 7 months pregnant, and we wanted to spend time with our daughter before her brother was born. When I was around 13, me, my mom, my dad, and my little brother went on a Disneyland vacation. It was fun and all, until my dad left his phone in the hotel, and they wouldn't give us it back. He had to get a new one, and my mom and dad were so upset that we never went back. I thought this was irrational since it was my mom's favorite place. We went at least once a year growing up. After that whole ordeal, my mom hated it. So when me and my husband wanted to go on a before baby arrives vacation, we decided to go to Disneyland for around 3 days. My daughter loves the princesses and the idea of magic, so when we told her, she was overjoyed. I told my mom when we were at lunch together that we were going on a trip. When I told her it was Disneyland, she was enraged. I was extremely confused because I thought she forgot about it, honestly. She called me a backstabber and just really rude words. She stormed out of the restaurant and I paid and left a few minutes later. A few hours later, my dad called me and screamed at me that this family doesn't go to Disney. If you weren't such a spoiled little brat, you would understand that. I was shocked. It was my money I was spending and I thought everyone was over it. My mom texted me a long paragraph about how she would go no contact and wouldn't be my mother anymore if I still went. The trip was fully paid for, so I responded, "Okay, I guess you only have a son now." And I blocked her. I've gotten at least 60 calls from family and a few texts telling me I'm wrong. We still went and got back yesterday. We all had a blast and my daughter rode her first big girl coaster. She loved every minute of it, so in my opinion, it was all worth it. So, AITA. Edit 1. Whoa, posted this around 2 hours ago and have gotten a lot of comments. First off, thank you for all the NTAs. I was kind of scared that I was going to get attacked. I think once I get home, I'm going to unblock my mom and ask if we can meet up. We haven't spoken since all this happened. I'm hoping we can meet up for lunch and we can talk. Also, I've been seeing a lot of comments where people think something way bigger happened. I can't remember anything else happening, though. I'm going to ask if and when we talk. I'll keep you all posted. BTW, I'm in California and I don't get off work until 5 to 5:30 p.m., so once I get off and get home, I will talk to my mom. I've seen a lot of people wanting an update, so I'll try and get one to you all soon. Edit 2. Holy crap. I truly didn't expect this to go viral. I'm getting ready for work, and just wow. So, last night I unblocked my mom, messaged her, and basically said, I want to talk. I know that our last fight was really messy, but I want to meet up for lunch and talk. And she responded. She said yes, and we're meeting up today. My dad is also coming because I want an apology from him for what he called me. I truly can't even process the phone call that happened. I want to get answers as fast as possible because I've seen so many comments saying this wasn't over a phone. I have a really bad memory, and this was 15 years ago, but I remember most of it because that whole situation was very messy. I will definitely be updating you guys after the lunch. I've also seen people saying my parents might not like Disney. Because they are more liberal, I don't think that's the reason, though. 15 years ago was very different as well. I'll ask that when we meet up, but I don't see it as a real reason. I've also seen people saying it's very unreasonable to go no contact or very limited contact because of this, which I agree with. I think she was just saying that to scare me, which is still very gross. But we still went and she messaged me back, so I guess we will just see. My husband also might come with me because I don't know how my parents will react when I ask them my questions. They know we still went, so I'm not too scared, but I can't be sure. I'll update with how the lunch goes soon. Final update. Well, here it is, fellas, your final update. Around 1 p.m. yesterday, we went to lunch. My husband didn't come because he had an important meeting at his work. I wasn't that scared anyway because we were going to a pretty popular restaurant. It wasn't like I would be alone with them. We got there and sat down. I started talking to my mom and dad and started asking my questions. It was mostly just, why would you get so mad? And It's my money, and I wanted to make my daughter have a fun vacation with her parents before she has a brother. And I was met with them gaslighting me and thinking because they don't love Disney, I can't go. I was on the verge of tears and leaving. So I asked my final question that I really wanted an answer on. This can't be over an effing phone. There has to be something going on to make you blow up like this. They then told me what really happened. So my dad did actually leave his phone. When housekeeping went to clean the room for the next family to arrive, the woman who was cleaning took the phone and took it to the lost and found. She saw my mom's contact on my dad's little smartphone and called her, and we went to pick it back up. But the woman also saw another contact that said, baby. My dad was cheating for a good year to a year and a half. She told my mom, and my mom blamed that woman for ruining her marriage by telling her. That's why they hated Disney, because it ruined their marriage. I walked out after that. I didn't pay either. I don't think I'm going to talk to them after this, only if my daughter and son want to. They betrayed my trust and never apologized either for what they called me a few days ago. I don't know why we never got the phone back. I will probably never know. But here is the official ending of this crazy story.
AITA for refusing to demote my dog after my sister gave her baby the same name. I, female 26, have a dog named Charlie. Charlie is a golden retriever I adopted 4 years ago, and he's my best buddy. My sister Emily, female 29, recently had her first child, a baby boy. She and her husband named him Charlie. At first, I thought it was funny and didn't really think much of it. But then Emily pulled me aside during a family gathering and said it was confusing and disrespectful for me to keep calling my dog Charlie now that her son has the same name. She asked me to rename my dog. I told her no. Charlie has been his name for 4 years. He knows it, responds to it, and it's on all his paperwork. Changing it would be weird for him. And for me. She got really upset and said it's not fair for her son to share a name with a dog, especially in family settings. She thinks it'll lead to jokes and confusion as her son grows up. My parents have weighed in, and while my dad says it's ridiculous to expect me to change my dog's name, my mom says I should just consider it to keep the peace. Now, Emily's barely speaking to me, and a few family members think I'm being stubborn. I have no idea how I am in the wrong here. The world has gone crazy. I love my dog, and I didn't name him to spite anyone. I also think it's not my fault they chose a name already in use in the family. AITA?
AITA for asking my boyfriend when he'll be over his dad's death? My boyfriend John and I, both 32, have been together for 4 years. For 2 of these years, his father Richard has had cancer. He passed away 3 months ago. Richard lived with my boyfriend's sister Amy, but we spent the last 2 years helping out every weekend, going to hospital visits and staying the night quite often. The 3 months before he passed away, we were visiting every other day as well to help out with chores, cleaning up, and giving Amy a break. I also really liked Richard and thought he was an amazing father, so I am also upset about the situation. When his dad got diagnosed, John requested that I don't talk to him about anything negative going on in my life because he was too stressed to deal with anyone else's petty issues while his father was dying and has not seen my family in 2 years because he said he didn't have the mental energy to deal with them. He is in therapy already and has been for the last 2 years. I complied, and the few times I slipped and told him about stuff going on, he told me that it's rude of me to talk about stupid problems when he has such big issues going on. Last week, I got passed over for a promotion at work, even though I've gotten super reviews and mentioned how annoyed I was about it. Once again, my boyfriend said he doesn't need to hear my small problems while he's grieving. I have been emotionally drained for years at this stage, and I asked him when I'll be able to talk to him about my problems without him belittling them, and said his father being dead does not mean that my problems are completely invalid. I also asked him when he thinks our relationship can go back to being mutually supportive, and he said, "Are you seriously asking me when I'll be over my dad dying?" I said in a way I was, and he got really upset. His friends say I am being an extremely unsupportive girlfriend. I feel like he's spinning the whole situation as relationships should be give and take. AITA?
AITA for refusing when my friend wanted to join my fiancé and I on our first trip together. I, 22 female, and my fiancé, 23 male, are going on our first trip together. I'm really excited as this is my first time on a plane, and even leaving the state I've lived in my whole life. We've been planning for this trip since earlier this year, and we've gotten our tickets as well as accommodations. Altogether, we've already spent about $4,500 on everything, which has been something we've been saving for as we're both college students. Our trip is in about a month, and in comes my friend, we'll call her Ashley, 22 female, who's been my friend for about a year. She'd brought up going to Japan as well, kind of jokingly, when we told her about the trip. I didn't think she was serious, but then she brought it up a few more times, even saying that she had a family member she could stay with. She asked if she could spend some time during the days joining us on our adventures while this family member was at work. I was supportive of this idea, as I know this would be her first time to Japan as well, and I care about her. However, all of a sudden, she told me she wanted to get the tickets, but her family member would no longer have space for her to stay. She wants to know if she can stay in our accommodations and join us on our flight back home. I let her know that our accommodation has strict rules against having more than 2 people, and there's only 1 small bed in this studio. She said she'd be fine sleeping anywhere on the floor or couch, etc. I told her that I'd feel more comfortable if we didn't. Chance of fee or getting in trouble in general, as I really just want a comfortable stay. I told her that we're still willing to spend time with her during the day, and I began sending her accommodations in her budget. I was hoping this would be enough. Instead, she's just asking if we can cancel our accommodations and pay for larger. Accommodations that can have a bed for her as well. Mind you, she's not saying she will help us pay for the more expensive accommodation or anything else for that matter. She simply just wants to stay with us and for us to pay for a different accommodation. It seems like no matter what I say, she just keeps trying to manipulate me into letting her stay with us. This is also hard because I know my fiancé and I really wanted this to be a romantic trip for us both, as we likely won't be able to afford another for a few years as we finish school. I'm just stuck on what to say or do. And if I'm the a-hole here, should I be okay with my friends staying in our accommodation and joining in on our trip? Note: as I'm reading the comments, there's a lot saying that I should be upfront about it being a romantic trip. When I first told her about the trip, I did tell her this is basically going to be our honeymoon. I may have said it jokingly to her, but I did mean it. My fiancé and I have been talking about going to Japan since we got together 8 years ago. I thought this honeymoon comment, as well as me bringing up activities, like making our anniversary cake at a shop in Kyoto, clearly set the tone in which I planned this trip to be. I do agree that I should again clarify that this is a romantic trip, but I feel uneasy that she'd receive this well, as she shut down all my logical reasons. I was hesitant when she brought up spending some time with us, but I thought maybe it was just something nice to do. I get that's a romantic trip, but my fiancé was fine with it and supported her coming along on some of the more normal things like going to Universal, since it was only going to be a few days of our trip. Like 4 out of the 30-plus days we'll be there that she'd want to be with us. She originally said she'd only be in Japan a week, and she'd only need to be with us while her family members are at work from 7 a.m. 5 p.m.-ish. But now, things have changed, and she's saying it could be longer. I do have trouble with boundaries, and I always want to be the one helping people out when I can, which doesn't seem to work out for me, but I'm working on it. But as she has been pushing for the last few hours, no matter what I say, I've been getting more upset. I just didn't know if I was being selfish towards a friend in need. Now, I can definitely see that this was probably the plan all along, and she isn't in a tight spot. She just wants to use us. This realization does hurt, as I thought we had gotten really close in our shared major. But I guess she really doesn't care about my feelings like I care about hers, because ultimately I just didn't want to hurt her. She recently got dropped from our major, so I thought she was just really sad and needed a pick-me-up. Update: I ended up refusing for the 10th time and told her no bluntly and as clearly as possible. As you guys have said, no was a sentence used. I also made sure to say that I wasn't down with changing anything and that I want to spend time with only my fiancé. That I've been trying to nicely say no, but I don't appreciate getting manipulated nor having my partner's and I's feelings ignored. She said, "We've been talking about this trip for so long. Why didn't we just work it out earlier? It's not my fault that this is last minute. Why won't you just do this one? It's not much different, but there's an extra bed. And sent me a link to a specific accommodation where the 2 beds are side by side, just BTW. I'm weirded out. She basically ignored what I said, so I have ignored her since. We're in the same friend group, so I think it's probably going to get weird. But honestly, I'm okay with that. Regardless of how that goes, my fiancé and I will be going alone and not meeting up with her or anyone anywhere during our trip. I'm going to work on the saying no thing and setting harder boundaries. I just had an abusive upbringing, and I'm still working on it all. I keep needing to remind myself that I'm not in that place anymore.
AITA for pulling out of planning my sister's wedding, causing her to lose her venue? As a wedding planner who has been in the industry for many years now, my 31 male party trick amongst close friends and family is being able to guess how long. My clients' marriages will last with pretty alarming accuracy. If you ask anyone in the industry, there are specific indicators while working with a couple that allow us to be able to gauge compatibility. I can usually get down to around a 6-month window when predicting when photos of each other will disappear from socials. This is not me taking joy in the crashing and burning of relationships. Working in this career field can actually leave you feeling jaded about relationships in general, which is why I'm reluctant to work for friends and family. The specific. Stress wedding planning puts on some people, and couples can bring out the worst in them that you don't see in everyday life. My sister is getting married early next year and practically begged me to plan for her despite my stance on clients I know personally. I finally gave in, and we began the process back in March. Last week, while we were meeting and finalizing a few things, she asked me about the party trick I mentioned. She said since I had been working with her and her fiancé for months now, I could give my prediction as to how long they were going to last. I laughed and tried to move on. I thought she was joking, but she continued to press the issue. After her continually bothering me about this for at least 15 minutes when I'm trying to move on, I do have work outside of my specific appointment with her that I needed to get to. I finally told her I thought they would last forever. She claimed she didn't believe me and wanted my real number, so I shrugged and told her the truth. 1.5 years. She was livid. I felt incredibly uncomfortable with the whole ordeal, especially with how little she respected my boundaries, in what is supposed to be a professional setting, and just tried to usher her out of my office. Instead, she began ranting about my own marriage and said she gives us until the end of the year before we break up and accused me of being a homewrecker. She finally left, and I emailed her saying I would no longer be involved in planning. I gave her the contact information for all of the vendors we were working with, but told her the venue would no longer be available as they only book to people they have existing relationships with, and my involvement was necessary. I have had to break up with clients before, but this felt particularly rough. She has now told our parents that I am purposely sabotaging her wedding and that I was unforgivably rude to her when she just asked a playful question. I feel very silly for letting a person disrespect my boundaries over and over again, something I typically wouldn't tolerate, but now I'm wondering if I'm in the wrong. AITA?
AITA for not sharing my final study guide with my classmates and causing them to fail. I'm an English major, but I go to a liberal arts college, so I need to take a science class in order to graduate. I was never a STEM student. After asking around, I was recommended Intro to Chemistry as the lesser of evils. Biology was my original pick, but the professor had a 1 out of 5 on Rate My Professor, and the chem professor had a 5 out of 5. Knowing science isn't my strong suit, I studied very hard with the goal to just pass. The problem was, this class was graded on very few things. 20% for attendance, 40% for a midterm, and 40% for a final. By the time the midterm had come around, I had created a study guide of around 80 pages. I knew a large group of students, primarily in Greek life, met to study alongside my roommate, but I was never invited, and when I asked my roommate, she said it was a Greek life thing only. My roommate is in the class with me. But we aren't close. She came back one night while I was working on my study guide. She asked what I was working on. And stupidly, I admitted it was a study guide for the midterm. She asked if I could send over a copy to her to compare notes, and as I was trying to be kind, agreed to do so, but asked her to keep it to herself as it was my hard work. Yes, I feel dumb now. I passed my midterm, and I was absolutely hyped. The semester continued, but the large group of students started skipping class entirely. The final came up, and I created another study guide. 200 pages. Yes, I cry thinking about it. I had a scholarship I needed to keep, and I just needed to pass to hold on to it. One time I went to office hours, I was asked by another student if I had the final study guide. When I asked what he was talking about, he mentioned my roommate and said that her roommate, me, had made a midterm study guide that let everyone pass. I basically had inadvertently helped everyone who wasn't paying attention do well. Because they just memorized my work, I realized in this moment that the reason why students stopped attending class was because they were banking on my final study guide. I've also corroborated through conversations with my roommate, where she let slip that she didn't need to understand the material, just memorize pre-existing notes. A week before the final exam, my roommate asked me if I could send my final study guide. I straight up told her to her face, nope. As it got closer and closer to the exam, her texts increased. The midterm class average was 70%. Not bad for intro to chemistry. The final, 17%. I got a 67%, but it got curved up to a 97%. I passed with a B+. My roommate yelled at me as she failed the final and mentioned I caused others to fail and not graduate as well. My roommate said I should have done the right thing, just as I did for the midterm exam, and hand over the study guide to help others. AITA for not sharing my final study guide with my classmates and causing them to fail. Edit. Quick responses to your top questions. Why no lab? This is an intro class for non-STEM students only. It's more of a concepts class. There's no lab, but there's a lab for the Intro to Chemistry for STEM students. Your roommate is in Greek life but doesn't live in a sorority house. My school doesn't have sorority houses, and the housing they do have for Greek is optional. The curving makes no sense. Average was a 17% on the final. Top grade was an 80%. The 80% was turned into 100%, and everyone was scaled 20 to 25%. Yes, this meant a lot of students still failed. AITA for being petty when my cousin kicked me off her Hulu account. I, 23 female, am currently at college. I live with roommates and I don't have a lot of money at the moment. I can afford necessities, but I need to count my pennies before buying any luxuries. I have a cousin, Jean, 27 female, who I'm fairly close with. I don't have any siblings, and I think of her as the sister I never had. Last year, I was in a much better financial position. It eventually went downhill due to me being unexpectedly laid off from my job and a bunch of surprise expenses, hence why I'm not doing so great now. Last year, Jean was in a tough spot as she had car problems and had to move back in with her parents after getting evicted from her apartment. She was working a minimum wage job and was really struggling. I paid the mechanic bill for her car, which was around $300, and I loaned Jean an additional $900 to help her with her expenses. I know the whole deal about loaning family members money and wasn't too worried about whether or not she'd ever pay me back. Jean paid me back $400 5 months later and told me she'd pay back the rest when she could, but she never did. Once again, I don't mind. I know she needed the money. I'd feel absolutely evil if I watched her be unable to afford necessities when I could have helped. But here's where I could be an a-hole. A couple of months ago, Jean started a Hulu account that she pays for. She gave me the login and told me I can use it. Last week, I noticed that I couldn't log into the account and I texted Jean to ask about it. She read the text but didn't respond for a few hours, so I called her. Her boyfriend picked up and he told me that they changed the password and explained that he doesn't think it's reasonable that I get to use their Hulu without paying for it. He said if I want to share the account again, I should contribute to cover the cost of upgrading the subscription to unlimited devices. I told him that's fine, but no thanks. I'd rather not then. I'll get my streaming fix elsewhere. I might have come off as abrupt or blunt, I guess, because Jean later called me and accused me of being condescending and disrespectful to her boyfriend. I apologized and told her I didn't mean to come off that way, and repeated our conversation to her. Jean said she was sorry, but they can't let me freeload. I laughed and told Jean that she can't possibly be calling me a freeloader. She said I am if I'm just going to use her for the subscription. I told her that I thought we had a relationship where we helped each other out and brought up the money I loaned her, which she hadn't even paid back fully. Jean called me petty and said that doesn't make me entitled to use her account. I told her I don't even flipping care about the Hulu account. She said I'm materialistic for keeping score and told me to leave her alone and hung up the phone. My aunt and parents are now also saying I'm petty and telling me to apologize to Jean as I'm not treating her like a good family member. AITA.
AITA for serving non-alcoholic drinks to family at a party and not telling them. It is important to note that my family tends to excessively drink when invited to events or parties, and things often get a bit chaotic. A 24 female and my partner, 26 male, have been together for 6 years. Early on in the relationship, my partner disclosed that he was in recovery after struggling with alcoholism during his teens. It wasn't a big deal in our relationship, as I don't really drink anyway, and we don't keep any alcohol in the house. However, when we attended my cousin's wedding about 4 years ago, my family got extremely drunk and tried to pressure my partner into breaking his sobriety. It caused a small argument within the family as we left early and offended my cousin and her husband. Years ago, I got a huge promotion and we wanted to celebrate, but my husband felt uncomfortable with throwing a party due to the way my family behaved under the influence. So, we decided to exclusively serve non-alcoholic drinks at the party. On the day of the party, we decided to pour the drink into large pitchers and label them to avoid people reading the labels, and we took out the trash to get rid of the bottles. The party itself was quite tame. They drank their usual amount and kept making comments like, "Wow, I don't even feel tipsy," or "I can barely feel anything." We tried to shrug it off as, "Oh, maybe you built up your tolerance." After the party, we decided to continue to serve non-alcoholic drinks at parties that we hosted. A week ago, we were at a dinner hosted by my grandparents, where again my family tried to force alcohol on my partner all evening. He finally snapped and revealed, "You're all so much nicer when you're not drunk. Why do you think we keep serving you non-alcoholic drinks when you're at ours?" The room fell silent for a few seconds, then all the questions started. We tried to explain our situation and why we don't serve alcohol, but my family were furious. We left shortly after, but my phone has been blowing up ever since. My family has boycotted parties that we host and refused to accept any form of apology. I've told friends about the situation, and the response has been very divided. Some are saying that it's not my place to force people to abstain from drinking alcohol. Others say that it was my party, therefore my rules. Am I the a-hole?
AITA for telling my coworker I'm tired of hearing about her nerdy obsession. So I have a coworker, 27 female, who is absolutely obsessed with Transformers. Yes, you read that right. She has a massive collection of action figures and frequently brings one or more of them to work to show off. She talks endlessly about the movies, cartoons, talks comics, talks video games to anyone who will stop long enough to listen. She writes a ridiculous amount of fanfic that she also has to talk about. Almost every vacation she takes revolves around going to a Transformers convention, etc. Most everyone else seems to think it's a fun personality quirk, or at least tolerates it. But it drives me bonkers because it's all she talks about. Like, get a life? Last month, a number of us were discussing things we missed the most that were gone or delayed due to the pandemic. Most people brought up visiting family, going to the movies, etc. Guess what this coworker missed the most? Yep, her conventions, which had all been cancelled because apparently stuffing hundreds of nerds in a confined space isn't a good idea during a pandemic. I admit that I lost my crap at this point, and I told her, "OMG, will you shut up? Nobody cares about your obsession. Find another hobby, or just something else to talk about besides a stupid cartoon show and action figures." She clammed up and didn't speak to me for the rest of the day. Since then, I haven't heard her say a peep beyond work-related stuff, which is actually a relief. But other co-workers are saying I was the a-hole for telling her to shut up, and that they actually miss her ramblings about fictional robots. One of them even says, "I'm lucky this co-worker didn't report me to HR." I don't think what I said was HR worthy. If anything, I think I did everyone a favor by getting her to stop talking their ears off about something only she cares about. But I'm wondering if I could have worded it better. AITA, edit. Okay, I get it. I'm a piece of crap. Please stop messaging me telling me so. Update. For those who care, I'm getting shunned and hated on enough at work that I'm currently looking for another job. I tried apologizing to my coworker, and she gave an "it's okay," but still refuses to talk to me. She's back to talking about robots again, though, so I think she'll be okay. I don't know for sure if she's on the autistic spectrum, but it probably doesn't make a difference. I will try to be more accepting of people's interests from here on out, even if it's too little, too late for my current workplace. AITA for wanting to play Call of Duty on Christmas instead of spending time with my wife and kids. My birthday is on Christmas Day. I have always spent my birthday celebrating Christmas and never doing anything I want. My son is 3 and my daughter is 6 months. I spend a lot of time with them and my wife and barely see my friends anymore. This Christmas, I just want to play Call of Duty with the boys. They're all going to be playing Call of Duty on Christmas / my birthday, and I don't want to miss out. They are never online all at the same time. My wife is incredibly angry with me and wants to throw my new Xbox out the window. I'm angry because I just want to play Call of Duty with the boys on my birthday. AITA, edit 1. Okay, I'm getting flamed here, and I feel like the a-hole, but I still don't think it's a crazy ask. I've never really celebrated my birthday. I was lucky if anyone other than my brother said the words "Happy Birthday" to me. My mom was super religious and made us spend every Christmas at church from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. The only acknowledgement I ever got from my family was a cake after dinner and a pack of socks once. I left home the day after my high school graduation, and that's when I met my boys that I mentioned in my post. We've been everywhere together, have literally saved each other's lives, and they are my brothers. They've always made me feel like my birthday was actually my birthday, and not just Christmas. My wife has done this too, but not to the extent that the boys have. Also, we haven't gotten together since before my son was born. We all live in different states and never see each other anymore. Edit 2. Okay, I was not planning on playing all day. I planned on opening presents with the family, then hopping on with the boys around noon. I get what everyone is saying, but I still don't think it's a big ask. Family time is incredibly important, but I happen to think that Call of Duty with the boys is too. Edit 3. Thanks for the input, everyone. To clarify a few things, I will not be helping with dinner. I never do, and it's for the best. My wife and I agree. I spend a lot of time with my family. I always wanted to give them the dad. I never had. My dad is still around, but was a drunk and has a new family now. I'm very close with my son, and hopefully I'm just as close with my daughter once she's a little older. My wife is convinced that the boys don't like her. We've been together a total of 10.5 years, and she's always said that they feel like she stole me away from them. This is not true, and they have never indicated this. When I do get to play, I don't shirk my responsibilities. I always do what I have to, but mostly just play on the rare occasion that I get the house to myself. What I'm asking for is uninterrupted time with the boys. I haven't even thought of asking for this before. Doesn't seem to matter how long to my wife. She doesn't want me online at all.